Chapter 48. A virtuous widow of Hu Chao follows her husband to the grave. Later scholars admire the old ways at Tai Po's temple. A tutor in Yu's household, Yu Ta, came each day to teach. One morning he rose, washed, drank tea, and set out as usual for his classroom. He had barely left the gate, though, when 3 horsemen rode up, alighted, and offered him their congratulations. "What is the meaning of this?" asked Yu. The messengers showed him a notice announcing that he had been appointed tutor to the prefectural college at Hu Chao. In joy, Yu treated them to a meal, then sent them off with a tip. Yu Liang came to congratulate him, and so did his kinsmen and friends. He was busy for several days entertaining guests, then sent his affairs in order and went to Anqing for credentials. On his return, he took his family to his new post, having invited his brother to accompany them. "You are a poorly paid tutor, brother," objected Yu Yu Chung. "While you are settling down there, you may not have even enough for yourself. I'd better stay here." Each extra day we can be together is to the good," replied Yu Yu Ta. "We used to teach in different places, and often didn't see each other for 2 years at a time. Now we're old, and as long as we can be together, what does it matter if we sometimes go hungry? We can always find some way out. I imagine being a college tutor is better than tutoring in a private family. Come with me, brother." Then Yu Yu Chung consented. They packed up together and went to Hu Chao. Since Yu Yu Ta's scholarship was well known, the people of Hu Chao had heard of him and rejoiced upon learning that he was to be posted here. After his arrival, when they found how frank and open he was, and how genial his conversation, licentiates who had not intended to come called on him after all. They realized they had an enlightened tutor. Moreover, when they met Yu Yu Chung and discovered how learned he was, they felt even more respectful. So several licentiates called on them every day. One day, Yu Yu Ta was sitting in the hall when in walked a licentiate in a square cap and old blue gown, with a swarthy face and a grey beard, who looked over 60. He had a card in his hand, which he handed to Yu Yu Ta. On it was written, "Your student Wang Yun." After presenting his card, the licentiate bowed, and Yu returned his bow. "Is your other name Yu Hui by any chance?" he asked. "It is, sir. I've been wanting to meet you for 20 years, and today at last I have my wish. You and I should be like brothers. We need not observe the usual vulgar conventions." He invited Wang into the study and bade a servant fetch his younger brother. Yu Yu Chung came in and was introduced. After the usual courtesies, they sat down. "I have been a licentiate in this college for over 30 years, said Wang. "I am nothing but a pedant. In the past, I never saw my tutor except officially, but now that I have such a famous teacher and uncle here, I shall call on you frequently to ask for your instruction. I must beg you not to look on me as one of the many college students, but to accept me as your disciple." "We are old friends, brother," protested Yu Yu Ta. "Why should you talk like this?" I have heard of your straitened circumstances," said Yu Yu Chung. "Are you doing any tutoring at present? How have you supported yourself all these years?" "Speaking frankly, uncle, all my life I have had but one aim, to compile 3 books to help young people." "What 3 books?" asked Yu Yu Ta. "1 book on ceremony, one on etymology, and 1 on country etiquette." "With what does the book on ceremony deal?" asked Yu Yu Chung. "It divides up the 3 classics of ceremony into such categories as the ceremony of serving parents and the ceremony of respecting elders. The main text from the classics will be in large type, with quotations beneath from the classics and the histories by way of illustration. Students can study this from their childhood. Such a book should be recommended by the government for general study and circulated throughout the country," said Yu Yu Ta. "What will your book on etymology be like?" "It is a manual on etymology that takes 7 years to study. This book is already completed. I will bring it to you, sir, for your opinion." "The science of etymology has long been neglected," said Yu Yu Chung. "A book like this should prove very valuable. May I ask what type of book that on country etiquette is?" It simply supplies some additional ceremonies to help civilize the people. These 3 books have kept me so busy I have had no time to teach." "How many sons do you have?" asked Yu Ta. "Just 1 son and 4 daughters. My eldest daughter is a widow at home. The others have not been married more than a year." Yu Ta kept Wang to a meal and refused to accept his card inscribed as from a pupil to a teacher. "My brother and I shall often be imposing on you by asking you over to chat," he said. "Don't be offended by our poor country fare." The Yu brothers saw him out, and Wang went slowly home. He lived 5 miles from the city. Upon reaching home, Wang told his wife and son how good Yu Ta had been to him. The next day, Yu Ta came down to the village by chair to call on him, and sat for some time in Wang's hall. The following day, Yu Chung came on foot, with a porter carrying a bushel of rice. He came in, greeted Wang, and they sat down. "This is a bushel of my brother's rice allowance," said Yu Chung, "and this," he produced an ingot of silver, "is 1 tael of his salary. He sends them to you, brother, as a stipend." "I have shown no respect to my teacher and uncle," said Wang as he took the silver. "How can I accept such kindness?" "This is not worth speaking of," replied Yu Chung with a smile. "But the college salary is low, and my brother has only just come to his post. Dr. Yu used to present scores of tales to deserving scholars in Nanking, and my brother would like to learn from him." "I dare not refuse a superior's gift," quoted Wang. "I accept this, then, with thanks." He kept Yu Chung to a meal and showed him the manuscripts of 3 books. Yu read them carefully and expressed his admiration. During the afternoon, a man came in. "Mr. Wang," he said, "our young master is very ill, and the young mistress asked me to invite you over. Can you set out at once?" "This man comes from my 3rd daughter," said Wang to Yu. "My son-in-law is ill, and they want me to go there." "In that case, I'll leave you now," said Yu Chung. "I'll take your manuscripts to show my brother, and return them when he's read them." So saying, he took his leave. The porter, who had eaten too, put the manuscripts in his empty basket and shouldered this load back to town. Mr. Wang walked 6 or 7 miles to his son-in-law's house and found the young man seriously ill. A doctor was there, but no drugs were of any avail. A few days later, his son-in-law died, and Wang mourned bitterly for him, while his daughter's tears must have moved both heaven and earth. When her husband was in his coffin, she paid her respects to his parents and her father. "Father," she said, "since my elder sister's husband died, you have had to support her at home. Now my husband has died. Will you have to support me too? A poor scholar like you can't afford to feed so many daughters." "What do you want to do?" her father asked. "I want to bid farewell to you and my husband's parents, and follow my husband to the grave." When the dead man's parents heard this, their tears fell like rain. "Child," they cried, "you must be out of your mind. Even ants and insects want to live. How can you suggest such a thing? In life you're one of our household. In death you'll be one of our ghosts. Of course we'll look after you, and not expect your father to support you. You mustn't talk like that." "You are old," said the girl. "Instead of helping you, I should just be a burden to you, and that would make me unhappy. Please let me have my own way. But it will be a few days before I die. I'd like you, father, to go home and tell my mother, and ask her to come so that I can say goodbye to her. This means a lot to me." "Kinsmen," said Wang Yu Hui to his son-in-law's parents, "now that I think this over, I believe, since my daughter sincerely wants to die for her husband, we should let her have her way. You can't stop someone whose mind is made up. As for you, daughter, since this is the case, your name will be recorded in history. Why should I try to dissuade you? You know what you must do. I'll go home now and send your mother over to say goodbye to you." Her parents-in-law would not hear of this, but Wang Yu Hui insisted. He went straight home and told his wife what had happened. "You must be in your dotage," she protested. "If our daughter wants to die, you should talk her out of it instead of egging her on. I never heard of such a thing." "Matters like these are beyond you," retorted Wang. When his wife heard this, the tears streamed down her cheeks. She immediately hired a chair and went to reason with her daughter, while her husband went on reading and writing at home as he waited for news of his child. In vain did Mrs. Wang argue with her daughter. Each day the girl washed and combed her hair, and sat there keeping her mother company, but no bite or sup passed her lips. Though the old folk begged and implored her, and used all the wiles they could think of, she simply refused to eat. And after fasting for 6 days, she had no strength to get up. The sight of this nearly broke her mother's heart. She fell ill herself and had to be carried home and put to bed. When three more days had passed, torches appeared at the second watch, and some men came to knock at their door. "Your daughter fasted for 8 days," they announced. "At midday today she died." When the mother heard this, she screamed and fainted away. And when they brought her round, she would not stop sobbing. Her husband walked up to her bed. "You're a silly old woman," he said. "Our third daughter is now an immortal. Why are you crying for? She made a good death. I only wish I could die for such a good cause myself." He threw back his head and laughed. "She died well," he cried. "She died well." Then, laughing, he left the room. Yu Ta was amazed when he heard of this the next day, and could not help but be sad. Buying incense and 3 sacrificial offerings, he went to pay his respects before her coffin. This done, he returned to the yamen and ordered his clerk to draw up a petition requesting the authorities to honor this devoted widow. His younger brother helped to draft the petition, which was dispatched the same night. Then Yu Chung took offerings and sacrificed before the coffin. When the college students saw their tutor show the dead woman such respect, a great many of them also went to sacrifice. And 2 months later, the authorities decreed that a shrine should be made and placed in the temple, and an archway erected before her home. On the day that she was enshrined, Mr. Yu invited the magistrate to accompany the retinue, which escorted the virtuous widow into the temple. All the local gendry in official robes joined the procession on foot. Having entered the temple and set the shrine in its place, the magistrate, college tutors, and Yu each sacrificed. Then the gendry, scholars, and relatives sacrificed, and last of all the 2 families sacrificed. The ceremony lasted all day, and they feasted afterwards in the hall of manifest propriety. The other scholars urged Wang to join the feast, declaring that by bringing up such a virtuous daughter he had reflected glory on his clan. But by now Wang was beginning to feel quite sick at heart, so he declined to join them. After feasting in the hall of manifest propriety, the others went home. The next day Wang went to the college to thank Mr. Yu. The 2 brothers received him and kept him to a meal. "I can't stand it at home with my wife grieving all the time," said Wang. "I would like to go on a trip, and I think the best place to visit is Nanking. That's a large printing center. I may find someone to print these 3 books of mine." "What a pity Dr. Yu isn't there," said Yu Ta, "since you're going to Nanking. If he were there and saw these books, his praise would make all the printers rush to have them." "If you are going to Nanking, sir," said Yu Chung, "my brother can write you letters of introduction to our cousin Tu Xiaoqing and Mr. Chuang Xiaoqiang. Their words carry weight." Yu Ta gladly wrote letters of introductions to Chuang Xiaoqiang, Tu Xiaoqing, Qi Hing Shang, and Wu Shu. Too old to travel by any road, Wang Yu Hui took a boat to Yin Chao and the West Gate. The beautiful scenery on the way made him grieve all the more for his daughter, and he traveled gloomily all the way to Su Chao, where he had to change boats. "I've an old friend at Ting Wang Hill," he remembered, "who always liked my writings. Why don't I call on him?" He left his luggage in an inn at Mountain Lake and booked a passage to Ting Wei Hill. It was still the morning then, and his boat would not leave till evening. "What places of interest are there near here?" he asked the waiter. "A couple of miles from here you'll come to Hut Chi Mountain. That's a lively spot, all right." Wang locked his door and went out. The street was narrow at first, but after about a mile it widened out. He sat in a tea house beside the road to drink a bowl of tea as he watched the boats going past. Some were large crafts with carved beams and painted pillars, and the passengers burnt incense and feasted all the way to Hut Chi Mountain. After a number of barges came several boatloads of women. They had hung no bamboo curtains, but were sitting there drinking, dressed in the brightest costumes. This Su Chao custom is not a good one, thought Wang. Women should stay in the inner chambers. Who ever heard of them cruising up and down in pleasure boats? Soon he noticed a girl in white on one of the barges, who reminded him of his daughter. Then his heart ached and hot tears rolled down his cheeks. Drying his eyes, he left the tea house and started up Hochi Mountain. Along the roadside were vendors selling soybean cheese, mats, toys, and flowers of every season. All was bustle and animation. There were restaurants too, and other shops selling sweetmeats. Since Wang was not a good walker, it took him a long time to reach the gate of Hochi Temple. Climbing the steps and rounding a corner, he came to Thousand Men Boulder, where tables were also set out for tea. He sat down and drank a bowl, while he gazed at the magnificent view all around him. The sky was overcast, though, as if it were going to rain, so instead of sitting there longer, he went out through the temple gate. Halfway back he felt hungry, and stopped at a shop to eat pork dumplings costing 6 coppers each, then paid the bill and left. By the time he had walked slowly back to the inn, it was dusk and the boatmen were clambering to be off. He carried his luggage back to the boat, and since it was only drizzling, the junk was able to travel all night. Arriving at Tingwei Hill, Wang went to look for his friend. He found a low house, with willows shading the entrance, but the double gate was closed and pasted with white. He gave a start and knocked. Then his friend's son came out in mourning to open the door. "Why have you come so late, uncle?" asked the youth. "My father longed to see you every day. Right up to the last he was sorry he couldn't meet you once more, and regretted that he had never read all your books." When Wang knew his friend was dead, the warm tears gushed down his face. "How long ago did your father die?" he asked. "Less than a week ago." "Is his coffin still in the house?" "Yes, uncle, it is." "Take me there. First wash your face and have some tea, uncle, then I'll take you to it." He offered Wang a seat in the hall and brought him some tea to wash in. But when Wang declined tea and asked to be taken straight to his old friend's coffin, the young man led him to the central room. The coffin was in the middle with incense burners, candles, and the dead man's portrait, as well as a spirit flag. Wang wept, then knelt and bowed 4 times, and his friend's son offered him thanks. After that he drank tea and used part of his traveling money to buy incense, paper coins, sacrificial meat and wine, placing his manuscripts before the coffin as he sacrificed. And then he wailed again. He spent the night there, but said he must leave the next morning. His young host could not keep him. Sobbing, Wang bade farewell to his old friend, then returned to the boat with tears in his eyes, escorted by his old friend's son. At Suzhou, Wang changed boats again, then went ashore at Westwater Gate in Nanking. Entering the city, he found a lodging at Niu Kyong's temple. He spent the whole of the next day looking for the men to whom he had introductions. But Dr. Yu had been transferred to Chiking, and Tu Shaoqing had gone to pay him a visit, while Chuang Shaoqiang had gone home to repair his ancestral tombs, and both Qi Hing Shang and Wu Shu had left for official posts in distant parts. Not one of them did he meet. Wang was not unduly disappointed, however, but let it go at that, and spent each day in the temple reading. Over a month later, when his money was finished, during one of his strolls he ran into a man at the end of his lane who bowed to him. "What brings you here, uncle?" asked the man. It was a fellow villager named Teng Chi-fu. His father had passed the examination in the same year as Wang, who acted as Teng Chi-fu's guarantor when he entered college. Hence the young man addressed him as his uncle. "It is years since we met," said Wang. "Where have you been?" "Where are you staying, uncle?" asked Teng. "In Niu Kong's temple in front. It's not far." "I'll go with you to your lodgings." When they entered the room, Teng bowed to Wang. "Since I left you, I've been to Yangchao for 4 or 5 years," he said. "Recently my employer sent me here to sell upriver salt, and I'm staying in the temple for worshipping heaven. I've only thought of you, uncle. Have you kept well? Why did you come to Nanking?" Wang asked him to be seated. "Nephew," he said, "when your mother was widowed and a neighbor's house caught fire, because she prayed to heaven, a wind sprang up which blew out the flames. Everyone knows that story proving her chastity. Now my 3rd daughter, Tu, is renowned as a virtuous widow." He described how his daughter had starved herself after her husband's death. "My wife's constant crying was more than I could bear," he said. "Mr. Yu of the Prefectural College wrote me some letters of introduction to friends in Nanking, but I haven't succeeded in meeting any of them." "Who are they?" Wang told them their names, and Ting sighed. "I'm sorry I couldn't come here before," he said. "When Dr. Yu was in Nanking, there were many famous scholars here. The whole country knows of that sacrifice at Tai Po's temple, but since Dr. Yu went away, these worthies have scattered like clouds before the wind. I came last year and met Mr. Tu Shaoqing, and thanks to him I met Mr. Chuang at Lotus Lake as well. But none of them are at home now. These lodgings of yours are not too comfortable, uncle. Won't you move for the time being to the temple where I'm staying?" This Wang agreed to. He said goodbye to the monk and paid his rent, then called the man to carry his baggage to the temple for worshipping heaven. That evening, Ting prepared a feast, and they spoke again of the temple of Tai Po. "Where is the temple?" asked Wang. "I'd like to go and look at it tomorrow." "I'll go with you, uncle," said Ting. The next day they went out through the south gate. Ting Chi Fu gave a few cents of silver to the caretaker, who opened the door and showed them into the hall. After paying their respects here, they went to the buildings at the back. They found the programme of ceremony and order of the processions which Chi Heng Shang had pasted on the wall, and dusted these off with their sleeves to read them. Then they went upstairs, where they saw 8 large cupboards in which the musical instruments and sacrificial implements were locked. Wang wanted to look at these. "The key is in Mr. Chi's house," said the caretaker. There was nothing for it but to come downstairs. They walked along both corridors and looked at the 2 libraries and at the building where the meat offerings were inspected. Then they took their leave of the caretaker and went on to the Temple of Kindness Repaid. They had a bowl of tea under glazed pagoda, then dined in a tavern near the temple gate. "I am tired of living outside," said Wang. "I would like to go home, but can't afford the journey." "How can you say that, uncle?" protested Ting. "I'll provide your fare and see you off." He prepared a farewell feast and produced over a dozen taels of silver, then hired a seat and chair and saw Wang off to Hu Chao. "Although you're leaving, uncle," he said, "you might give me Mr. Yu's letter of introduction. When those scholars return, I'll send them in, and they'll know that you called on them." "Very well," said Wang. He handed the letters to Ting, then left. Wang Yu Yue had been gone for some time when Ting heard that Wu Shu was back, and took the letter to call on him. It happened that Wu Shu was out that day paying a call, so Ting did not see him but left the letter there. "My name is Ting, and I live in the temple for worshipping heaven," he told Wu's servant. "I would like to explain this letter to your master." When Wu Shu came back and saw the letter, he decided to go to the temple to return Ting's call. Just then, however, he received an invitation from Mr. Cao, a Han Lin. But to know what followed, you must read the next chapter.